Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 million by 1 million online rendezvous. We are broadcasting live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And we welcome you to this morning's session. It's morning here in California and Silicon Valley, where I'm coming to you from. But I'm sure there are a lot of people in a lot of different time zones. So greetings to all of you. 1 million by 1 million, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator in the world. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue. Now, in support of that mission, we do a lot of different virtual activities. So this is one of them. We also do weekly online mentoring roundtables that you can access through our website. Go to 1mby1m.com, free public roundtables, and you will find the schedule there. So if you're looking to discuss your project with me, oftentimes when I look through the comments and the interactions during these sessions, there are always people looking for feedback on their particular businesses. And I'm very happy to give you that feedback, but you need to access the free roundtables, mentoring roundtables, where we do that kind of work. So come, bring your project with you. We have a safe working session, usually on Thursday morning Pacific time, and I will be happy to work with you on your project. In these sessions, I have mostly been doing Q&A. So we get a lot of questions from all sorts of different touch points. And in these sessions, I normally collate a set of questions and answer them. And consequently, you're very welcome to ask more questions, and either I will dialogue with you after I'm finished with the video portion in the public chat, or we will answer the questions. If they require a larger, longer answer, then I will answer them next time. So let's go to our first question. This is, what are fat startups and how do they get VCs to write big checks for them? So, you know, the world of lean startups has been very active, but there are certain technologies that require, some capital to get to more complex, more elaborate technology development. So that's the point of view from which this question is coming. It is in a lot of minds. So let's talk about how to navigate the world of fat startups. In the unicorn world, a number of companies have actually done very well with the lean startup principle. Amongst the case studies that we talk about, Tableau Software, which Salesforce bought, but it went public as a unicorn first. FireEye is another one. Right Now is another one. Of these, Tableau and Right Now have followed lean startup principles. These are both case studies that we teach in our program. FireEye, on the other hand, is a fat startup, and that required a lot of early funding to get to market. While it is true that these days we focus a lot more on lean startups than startups that require capital to get going, fat startups still play an important role in developing large-scale success stories with significant defensible competitive advantage. And that is usually defensible with technology. In FireEye, in that case study, we explore how Ashar Aziz, the founder of FireEye, used cross-domain innovation to build a business that scaled to over, basically to a multi-billion-dollar market cap and went public. The bulk of the industry has moved away from the fat startup category. Investors expect that you will have your product launched, customer acquisition model fleshed out fully, and a team in place before Series A often. Even if you don't have the full team, they expect that you're already showing some traction. And in many cases, before an investor would, let's say you're doing a SaaS product, before an investor would write your Series A check, they want to see $1 million annual revenue run rate. However, Infrastructure, software, hardware, networking, chips, they need capital. Even in cloud software, to build complex technology like personalization and analytics requires some serious investment. While in the 1M by 1M program, we steer people mostly along lean startup paths, I have pondered and investigated the question, how do people fund fast startups these days? I'm seeing a few trends. One, you need track record to get VCs to write big checks right away. So often it is the serial entrepreneurs who get these opportunities, not first-time entrepreneurs. Secondly, some VCs incubate such companies with their entrepreneurs in residences who are typically serial entrepreneurs. Again, this is not a path for first-time entrepreneurs. Palo Alto Networks has been a very successful leader in cloud security, cybersecurity. Founded by serial entrepreneur Nir Zuk, the company managed to pull off a concept financing round of $9.4 million to get itself going. Highly unusual scenario. Prior to Palo Alto Networks, Nir was the CTO of NetScreen Technologies, which was acquired by Juniper Networks in 2004. Prior to NetScreen, Nir was co-founder and CTO at OneSecure. Nir also served as a principal engineer at Checkpoint Software Technologies, where he was a lead developer of inspection technology. Juniper acquired NetScreen in February 2004 for $4 billion. Nir had strong feelings about what was happening at Juniper once he got there and recommended that the company built a new firewall product. Pretty much the entire world, quote unquote, was using technology that we invented at Checkpoint in 1994. It just did not make sense to keep using 10-year-old technology. Hackers did not sleep for 10 straight years, although antivirus vendors did. This is what Nir told me. And it got to the point that firewalls were not really doing anything, and everybody knew that firewalls were not doing anything. Despite that, 80% of the network security budget was spent on firewalls, and 20% of the budget was spent on antivirus products that stay behind the firewall. As an entrepreneur, I recognized that there was an opportunity. This is again Nir speaking. I wanted to build something that would cover 100% of the market. I asked Juniper from 10 million and 25 people to build a new firewall based on that Juniper operating system. I did not even hear an answer back, so I left. I raised $9.4 million from Greylock and Sequoia. We hired 20 people, some of whom were people that I wanted to work with on the project at Juniper. So this is Nir explaining the circumstances under which he basically left Juniper to start Palo Alto Networks. It was pretty much concept financing. He says he had 5 PowerPoint slides, and the next day he had a term sheet because he was an entrepreneur with very serious track record, including an exit, serious exit. Of course, he had connections, he had backgrounds, he was dealing with top-tier VCs. Palo Alto Networks started selling the product in August 2007. Bookings shot up to 100 million in 2010. The company spent $49 million to get to cash flow positive and went public in July 2012 at a valuation of $2.8 billion. So this is a very successful fast startup. But this is possible only because Nir Zuk was a serial entrepreneur with deep domain knowledge and a history of succeeding in cybersecurity already. He made those choices of raising that much money, 9.4 million first check, because VCs were willing to write him that check. So this is not going to work for first-time entrepreneurs. And I'm sure you're thinking, well, you know, I'm not a serial entrepreneur, I'm a first-time entrepreneur, so what are my choices? I think the most viable option for a first-time entrepreneur is to bootstrap using services. Deep domain knowledge in a certain field may also give you access to capital. A coherent, high-powered team that is willing to work for equity and build a prototype along with a clear vision of product, customer need, customer acquisition model, may sometimes work as well. So Ash Ashutosh is a serial entrepreneur who worked as an EIR in Greylock, a top venture firm. And once he scoped out the market need, Greylock gave him money to build a product. In effect, Actifio, Ash's fat startup, was incubated inside Greylock, the venture firm. So this is another serial entrepreneur working as an EIR at a top venture firm. That is, another case study. You can look up the case study, by the way, on our website. Andres Rodriguez, founder of fat startup Nasuni, has deep domain knowledge in storage. Again, serial entrepreneur with track record. He raised money on 2 core factors. Same thing. Basically, he has domain knowledge in storage, and he was able to do this fat startup story. Alon Maurer, CEO of fat startup Quilt. Again, he did a very good use of bridge financing with Series A, typically the first institutional round, already negotiated. The product was released 20 months after Series A, which means the Series A financing happened without much other than a clear vision of what the product was going to be and feedback from customers that they wanted the product. Alon went and talked to customers. Since we are approaching the carrier space, he says, which is a large software-based capital-intensive project, the incubation he did with 15 worldwide carrier references is what convinced investors to write a check. Again, you can find the case study on our blog. Basically, it's customer references, customers speaking for the needs that he has identified. That's what is driving this story. So it was a combination of domain knowledge, customer interest, and then VC interest on top of that. Austrian entrepreneur Alexander Zaka had deep knowledge, domain knowledge in art auctions. He comes from an auction family. This is the first time internet entrepreneur from a family steeped in the art auction business. He raised Series A financing in Berlin based on a slide deck that explained the core concepts. And that company, Auctionata, also was able to raise money for a fat startup. And that's based on deep domain knowledge. So that's just some guidance on fat startups. I hope if you have questions coming to your mind on fat startups, please go ahead and ask them, and I will see if I can answer them when I go dialogue with you after this session in the public chat, or I will pick up those questions and answer them next time. The next question that I'm going to answer is, how important is it for a tech startup to be in Silicon Valley? So I know from doing these sessions, every week now, many of you are dialing from many different parts of the world. So at this point, I would say it is actually impossible to fight the talent war and scale a tech startup in Silicon Valley. VCs recognize that. And especially if you're not in Silicon Valley, if you are drooling over coming to Silicon Valley and building your startup here, I would say you need to think twice. Everyone has to come to terms with the model that you may want to put a small team in Silicon Valley that deals with fundraising, biz dev, and the bulk of your organization is elsewhere, wherever that may be. We're seeing teams everywhere: Utah, Oregon, Colorado, various parts of India, Ukraine, Belarus, everywhere. A very nice case study, PandaDoc from Belarus, actually bootstrapped first in that country and then came to raise money in Silicon Valley and succeeded. Bootstrap first, raise money is the mantra, by the way. About the choice of just not being in Silicon Valley at all, that is also viable. We have seen case studies. It depends on what your market is. If you're trying to sell to the global technology market, and if your entry point into the global market is the US, you can also do it from some other part of the United States. But if you're trying to get into the American market, you do need to eventually come to America and set up shop. You may be doing this from any part of the world, and you may be able to build your product and get early traction on that product elsewhere in the world. But if America is one of your major markets, you will need to set up shop in America at some point. And you can judge at what point you want to do that. If you want, you can come, talk to me at one of the free roundtables, and I will, explain to you based on your scenario. If you describe to me what your scenario is, I will be able to tell you what your immediate next steps should be in terms of where you should be located. Next question, how can we determine if our startup idea is worthwhile? Well, we have a very clear self-assessment tool for this. If you go to the website, 1m-by-1m.com, there is a self-assessment tab. So go there, there's a free questionnaire that will help you identify the gaps in your business building process. These are the questions that investors would ask you during your pitch, and I think you need to ask yourselves to gauge whether your idea is validated, is going to work or not. So to validate a business idea, these are the questions that need compelling answers. Validation is one, positioning, and you have to validate with customers, not advisors. Be very clear that the customer validation is the only kind of validation that matters. Positioning, are you able to articulate the precise positioning of your solution? Monetization, free is not a business model. How do you monetize? TAM, total available market. Do you have enough market size to build a business? And there are, two different types of businesses that you could be building. You could be building a large venture scale business, in which case you need $1 billion TAM, or you could be a smaller bootstrap business, in which case you do not need $1 billion TAM. So whichever way you want to go is fine, but you're going to need to build a business with commensurate TAM to what your aspirations are. You can't take a small TAM business to VCs and they will not fund it. You have to think about your bootstrapping strategy. Can you bootstrap? You have to bootstrap to some degree of validation before investors will engage, etc. So on financing, our guidance is over 99% of the investors who go out to raise money get rejected. Are you planning to raise money? Do you understand what it takes to raise money? What investors are looking for? Is your company fundable? You have to assess all this. We can help you do that. Through the program, we help you do that. Customer acquisition, what is your strategy? Team, what is your strategy? Etc. So these are all, issues that you're going to need to go through a checklist on and figure out how you're going to navigate. Again, come to the roundtable if you want to work with us, and I will be happy to give you more direct feedback, project-specific feedback on your particular project. Okay. The next question I'm going to go to is, what can be improved in the startup accelerator model? We've thought a lot about this, obviously. Here are 15 questions for managers of technology startup accelerators who are trying to figure out how to improve their model. I published a Harvard Business Review article in August 2013 called The Problem with Incubators and How to Solve Them. And for the moment, I'm going to use accelerators and incubators as transferable terms. They're not necessarily entirely transferable, but for the moment, for this particular discussion, I will use them as interchangeable terms. The time at which I wrote that article, there were 7,500 incubators and accelerators in the market. There is a very real knowledge gap in the early stage startup game on both sides of the table. First-time entrepreneurs lack the seasoning to captain a steady ship through turbulent waters. Inexperienced family and friends, and increasingly crowdsourced investors, lack the ability to gauge the viability of a business or to mentor naive entrepreneurs. This knowledge gap, I've come to believe, is best filled by savvy incubators and accelerators. However, there are over 7,500 business incubators around the world. Most of them fail. I don't know what the number is at the moment. Probably over 10,000. I do know that the phenomenon of accelerators and incubators has spread globally at a fantastic pace. Startups are mushrooming globally, so are incubators and accelerators. So how do we ensure that all these incubators and accelerators end up delivering on their promise of helping entrepreneurs succeed? I have summarized a few questions based on our experience running 1 million by 1 million, the first and only global virtual accelerator. We've been doing this since 2010. I would love to brainstorm with those in different parts of the world who are managing accelerators. Question number 1, are you taking equity? The matter of equity is a lot more complicated than some make it out to be. Not all great businesses are great investments. If an accelerator takes equity in a company that is better run as a cash business, then that equity is not going to result in a large exit. So, before deciding on equity as compensation, try to understand whether the business is fundable/scalable. In fact, in designing your accelerator, whether or not to take equity is one of the most important decisions. If you take equity, then by definition, you're focusing on the less than 1% startups that will be fundable and qualify for a reasonable exit. I cannot overstress how important this point is. At 1 million by 1 million, we're not taking equity because we are an inclusive accelerator. We are perfectly okay with helping entrepreneurs who are going to build bootstrap businesses, not just the venture scale entrepreneurs. We have venture scale entrepreneurs and we have bootstrapped entrepreneurs. Both are fine. Second question, are you offering funding? Is that equity-based, dilutive, debt-based, non-dilutive, or grant-based, again, non-dilutive? So are you funding against equity? If you're offering equity-based funding, you're effectively acting as a venture fund. Your model, your success is all going to be predicated upon the performance of that venture fund. Your success metric is exactly the same as those of any VC fund. And how do you define success in that scenario? If you're doing debt-based financing, that is non-dilutive and that is different. You need to get that debt paid back. Or if you're doing grant-based, then you're offering another non-dilutive means of financing. And in that case, you're probably working on a non-profit model or of some sort. So all this is, again, a very important question. We do not offer funding. We work with a network of investors. We have a terrific network of investors that we are willing to make introductions to. And that's our model that allows us to do non-equity and help a much broader array of entrepreneurs who may come to us without being ready for funding. And we will work with them, we will guide them through the process of getting to funding. Third question, do you have a diagnostic methodology to determine whether a startup is fundable? Clearly, over 99% of the ventures are not fundable. So if you're offering funding, you need to find fundable businesses. Deals that can either raise follow-on funding from angels and or VCs, or deals that can find an exit without needing further funding. Question number 4, do you have a diagnostic methodology to determine whether a startup is VC fundable? VCs want to go from 0 to 100 million in 5 to 7 years. That's hyper growth. And they want $1 billion plus TAM. Neither parameter comes along that easily. So before advising people on VC pitches, try to learn how to diagnose what is and what isn't fundable by VCs. Perhaps spend a few months deeply learning the 1M by 1M methodology and curriculum, or some other comparable material that teaches the fundamentals of this super critical topic. Are you checking investor entrepreneur fit? VCs are not one size fits all. They have dramatically different core competencies, preferences, investment styles, investment thesis. Some chase unicorns. These days, some seek alternative styles of returns, acknowledging that fact that there is way too much money in the system and way too many of them. You can read, look at the videos of, or listen to the podcasts of our investor interviews to become better equipped in identifying the right investor entrepreneur fit. Just like product market fit, this too needs to be positioned right. Point number 6, do you enforce rigorous TAM analysis? Most TAM models I see are aggressive overestimations, often top-down 30,000 foot level approximations. Without a credible TAM model, investors will not take a venture seriously. Again, please learn and teach the right methodology. By the way, positioning drives TAM like nothing else. Get one wrong, the other topples like a domino. And a follow-on question, number 7, are you teaching positioning? In my experience, when an entrepreneur is early and still struggling with figuring out product market fit, one of the most useful types of mentoring he or she needs is around positioning. Very few people are good at this. Accelerators need to find mentors who can help entrepreneurs with this, and it will be the biggest and most effective contribution that they can possibly make. In the 1M by 1M program, the most effective interventions we make in business are around positioning. Question number 8, what methodology are you teaching? For example, we at 1M by 1M have a methodology that operates on a bootstrap first, raise money later, or not at all basis. We don't force our entrepreneurs to raise capital. Not all businesses can or should raise capital. Our methodology takes into account the fact that over 99% of the businesses out there need to be built as lean, capital-efficient, bootstrap startups. Y Combinator has a different methodology. They focus on raising lots of capital. They're effectively a VC fund. If an entrepreneur tries to fund a business that doesn't have what it takes to become fundable, they will fail. And noticing that accelerators are blindly advising entrepreneurs to go raise money, please stop doing this. This is misleading, shooting from the hip, and a parroting of cliches. While taking entrepreneurs' money or equity, please try not to lead them down the wrong path. Point number 9, what curriculum are you following? Entrepreneurs need an online curriculum to follow. The first-time entrepreneur's journey is terribly complex and with a steep learning curve. They need a curriculum that teaches a proven methodology of how to go from, say, 1 customer to 5 customers to 50 customers to 500 customers. Entrepreneurs need to learn various pieces of methodology in an efficient manner. These are the typical strategy questions. The 1M by 1M self-assessment will help you navigate these. If they get stuck on those questions, they need a curriculum with which to plug their knowledge gap. So those mentoring entrepreneurs should try to standardize on a proven curriculum that works. And you're all welcome to use the 1M by 1M curriculum if that is the methodology you want to follow. If not, find one that is well thought through and well designed. Are you teaching bootstrapping is the question number 10. Whether or not entrepreneurs raise money later, they will have to bootstrap the early stages. You can use my free LinkedIn course on bootstrapping. It busts a lot of myths. In fact, I recommend all of you to go look at my LinkedIn course on bootstrapping. It's been a very popular course. It's been around for a while. It's very well built. LinkedIn actually commissioned that course to me. Question number 11 is, are you using case studies? Don't reinvent the wheel. We're almost, we are in 2020. Case studies exist for how entrepreneurs have achieved success. Playbooks exist. We have built our program, the 1 million by 1 million program, entirely on case studies. Use case studies. It is the best way to teach businesses. Question number 12. Do you have a network of potential customers, of potential investors, of potential channel partners, of potential acquirers, of media, of analysts? Question number 13. Do you generate visibility for your companies? Startups need social proof to convince customers, partners, and investors, to generate inbound leads, to validate, to become fundable. Question number 14. It actually dovetails to an earlier question. What is your bridge into Silicon Valley? Technology startups inevitably have to address the question, should we move to Silicon Valley? Should we raise funding from Silicon Valley? How do we work with Silicon Valley even if we don't move there? And you need a bridge to Silicon Valley. And the last question, what is the duration of your program? 3 to 4 month programs typically don't accomplish much. They're okay to join if, A, they give funding grants. Example, some corporate accelerators are giving 10K to 25K in pure grants, no equity dilution involved. And B, they're willing to become customers. Entrepreneurs who join one of these accelerators, especially if it's a corporate accelerator, if they can get a customer or a grant out of those accelerators, it's okay to join a 3 to 4 month program. But entrepreneurs who join one of these need to supplement with a real accelerator that they can get the real hand-holding for much longer than 3 to 4 months. Some accelerators offer the 1 million by 1 million program to their cohorts as scholarships. NetApp is one, Blackboard is one. They supplement their 4-month grant-based programs. NetApp particularly supplements their 4-month grant-based program with 1M by 1M scholarships, and 1M by 1M is an annual program. So there is no concept of graduation. You can, as long as your membership is active, you can use the program, be in the program for 3 years, 4 years, no problem. Part of what's going on here is if you're trying to do enterprise deals, it may take you 3-4 months to get a meeting. It may take you 6-9 months to close a deal. So unless you have that runway, you will basically get a false negative if you get kicked out of an accelerator, quote unquote, graduated from an accelerator without giving yourself that runway. So those are my pointers as far as accelerators are concerned. At 1M by 1M, we have been collaborating with incubators and accelerators around the world. You're welcome to use our incubator in a box to strengthen the offerings of your accelerator. You can do your coaching/mentoring on top of the 1M by 1M platform. Use the resources we've created, use the self-assessment, use the free public roundtables, use the blog. All our case studies are on the blog. The investor interviews are on the blog. Use the curriculum, use the methodology, use our network, both in Silicon Valley and elsewhere. We are very happy to collaborate. If listening to this, you are interested in working with us, partnering with us, we are very happy to do so. So that kind of brings me to the end of this session. I will take the last question, which is, how can I get feedback from you on my venture? So if you want feedback from me, it's very straightforward. 1M by 1M offers free online mentoring roundtables for entrepreneurs looking to discuss positioning, financing, and all other aspects of building a startup venture. Up to 5 entrepreneurs who registered to pitch will be able to present their businesses. You can go to the website and find the free public roundtables page and register. You'll find the schedule there. You'll find the registration links. You will get straightforward feedback, advice on next steps, etc., directly from me as well as my guests. I usually have CEOs and VCs as guests. So go check that out and sign up if you'd like to. And you can use the self-assessment tool to assess where you are. It's also helpful to prepare. If you register, Maureen will also send you instructions on, pitch instructions. And some entrepreneurs actually use 1M by 1M Basic to prepare, which is our curriculum, on the option. And you can study the curriculum and then come and work with me. And in that case, you will learn a lot before joining the program or coming and talking to me. That also is a very effective way of engaging with me and getting feedback. All right, so that is all I have for today. Thank you for coming. Again, 1 Million by 1 Million is a first and only global virtual accelerator. We offer a tremendous amount of free resources and then a lot of modestly priced resources as well. The 1 M by 1 M basic curriculum only option is just $99 a month. And 1 M by 1 M premium, our full acceleration program, is just $1,000 a year. And that includes everything, including fundraising introductions and introductions to customers, channel partners, media analysts, and the curriculum, and access to free, not free, within the program you get access to coaching, basically coaching, mentoring, strategy consulting, whatever you call it. And you can access that abundantly and weekly while you have an active membership in the annual membership-based 1 M by 1 M premium program. That's it for today. I hope to see you on Thursday morning at our free roundtable, where we will have both a guest as well as mentoring of of entrepreneurs in the roundtable. It is a safe working session. Thursday morning sessions over WebEx are safe working sessions. You can come bring your problems, your troubles, and your roadblocks, and we will try to help you remove them. Thanks for coming today. It's great to see you, and I will stick around and answer your questions in a moment. Thank you very much.